Alderman Cone.
I know we're not ready yet.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, you're ready.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call to order the meeting of HUDs for September 29th, 2022. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Evans. Chair Davis.
Present. That's not a quorum.
No, that's not a quorum. I don't have a quorum.
So I know that Alderman Cone has to be excused.
Okay. I did send him a link. He didn't receive a link this morning. So I did forward him a link.
Okay. Well, I hadn't received one either, so
okay.
Until just a moment ago. So who can we call that needs to be on this?
Just one moment. I'm gonna call Alderwoman Evans. Hold on one moment.
And it looks like Alderman Coder just joined.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Okay.
So we have the quorum now.
We have a quorum for present.
1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, Alderman. I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes for September 22nd, 2022.
I move that we approve the minutes for September 22nd, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans. Chair Davis.
Aye.
4 present.
Thank you. Alderwoman Sharon Tice asked for her bill to be held. Could you please make note of that, Madam Clerk?
So noted.
Okay. And I don't have an agenda. I do have it. You may emailed it to me just now, but I'm going to ask you to carry the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is
Board Bill number 89, introduced by Alderwoman Marlene Davis. An ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing and directing the insurance and delivery of not to exceed $4,691,000,000 plus insurance costs, principal amount of tax increment, and special district revenue notes. Armory District RPA 1, Series 20-A/B of the City of St. Louis, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of such notes and the covenants and agreements made by the city to facilitate and protect the payment thereof, prescribing other matters relating thereto, and containing a severability clause.
okay. I thank you very much for that. Board Bill 89 is an Armory District Board Bill. It is one that has had a lot of attention. And what I would like to do is, as a sponsor, I normally don't talk a lot about a bill until the end, because alderpersons do not negotiate development deals. What they do is they assist their community. They assist if questions are asked of them, but it is the job of the St. Louis Development Corporation to vet projects, to do the financial analysis on behalf of the city of St. Louis, and also look at how this city can benefit from that development in the future, and also look at all of the things that it may or may not affect in a positive or negative way. So in saying that, what I'd like to do is to turn this over to our guest speakers that I see listed here from the Development Corporation. We'll start off there. We also have guest speakers from the developer side of this project, and I will entertain them. Probably they'll be intertwined as the St. Louis Development staff explains this bill to us and give us all of the answers that we may ask of them. And so, is Director Richardson with us yet?
I am, Alderwoman Davis.
All right, sir. I shall turn it over to you.
Thank you again. We really appreciate the opportunity to bring this forward and be part of this conversation. We have been working with Green Street really over the last year since I've taken on this role to not only negotiate the financial means within the TIF, but also have conversations with Green Street around how they can be supportive as developers in advancing equitable economic growth, economic justice forward in the city. And we believe that Green Street has shown good faith in doing that. They are working with us on establishing our Economic Justice Fund to invest in other areas outside of just the Central Corridor and downtown, around how they can create greater economic outcomes for North City specifically, but also driving investment in partnership with the St. Louis Public Schools. The goal that we have at SLDC is not to look at each one of these transactions in isolation, but to coordinate across the city, as you stated, Alderwoman, to make sure that our entire city benefits from these projects long term. And so as we are having conversations with Green Street, we are also bringing St. Louis Public Schools to the table around how we can ensure that all taxing districts benefit from the growth of these development projects. Again, we're not looking at any one transaction in isolation, but having more broader and strategic conversations around how our development partners, how our businesses can be greater stewards to our growth as a city at large. So again, that will be part of the ongoing process at SLDC to ensure that we're doing developer vetting, not looking at one transaction that they're presenting for public incentive or public benefit, but looking at their track record. How have they invested historically in the city? And what are their goals to help us move this city forward? Because again, we want to have transformational partnerships and not just look at it on a one transaction basis. So I'll pass it over to Zach Wilson, our Vice President of Economic Development Incentives, who will give an overview of the TIF bill that's presented today, and then pass it over to Green Street for more specifics on the direct project itself.
Thank you, Neil. As you know, usually on TIF bills, TIF projects, we have 3 bills that usually come forward, the Board of Aldermen. 2 of those bills were already approved back in 2017. So these 2 bills are before you. One's 89, I believe the other one's 90. 89 is basically amending portions of the one bill, I believe the agreement, and the second bill is for the TIF notes on themselves. So I just want to get a little history there before we pass on to Green Street. Thank you.
Green Street team, can you please move forward? Thank you.
Sure. I'll start and then I'll hand it off to the folks that really know what's going on. My name is Dave Sweeney. I'm Lewis Rice and representing part of the team representing Green Street. Yeah. As far as Board Bill 89 goes, as Zach already stated, you know, this was initiated back and passed back in 2017, and Board Bill 89 just issues the bonds and the amount, the TIF notes, excuse me, to not exceed 4.69 million. A couple of key facts I just want to stress are these notes are not general obligations bonds to the city. So the city is not on the hook for this whatsoever. The notes are payable only from available revenues as defined in the bill, which include TIF pilots, TIF eats, and the SID revenues. So again, this is the third, typically in TIFs in the past, we've seen it go in 3 bills. That wasn't the case here. It was the first 2 that were, and this one wasn't done in 2017, and this is just bringing that up to speed. And then I can go, we'll discuss, 90 has a few more details, so we're happy to discuss as well. Thanks. Anything you want to add, James? Green Street team.
Thanks, David. This is James Huffner from Green Street. We just wanted to underscore the point that, you know, the TIF is already in place. High level overview for the project. This is an entertainment destination, being the Armory. It's anticipated to create hundreds of jobs over the next year. And it's, you know, it's part of a larger district. So it's not just an isolated project. It's really designed to help revitalize this area.
Did we have any other members of Green Street that needed to present?
We do not, Alderwoman. Thank you.
Okay. I want to go back to Director Richardson, please.
Yeah, so the last statement that I would like to make before we move forward is, I know there's been conversations about why isn't, you know, the public benefit within the TIF bill or legislation itself, and per TIF state statute, there is no legal ground for us to favor one taxing district over another. And so that is, we don't have any legal grounds to actually put that language within the board bill. However, SLDC will continue to vet developers to ensure that they are providing equitable growth, they are investing, they are being great partners in community. Again, not in isolation of one deal, but across all of their transactions within the city of St. Louis. So I just wanted to state that as a legal point of context, that the state statute does not allow for TIF to benefit one taxing district over another. So we're having global conversations again with partners to ensure that they're not investing inequitably, and they are actually working for the city overall to be good partners in advancing us forward, because that's the goal of the city of St. Louis in this moment. So I'll pass it back over to you, Sharon and Davis.
Thank you very much. As has been stated, this is a project that has been working for a number of years. And this is just another phase of it that was postponed, and we want to get it back on track. This project is located in the 17th and the 19th Ward. And we have been, we've been very fortunate to have a project like this. And what I want to add, for those who don't know, there's a lot of infrastructure development that comes with this project. And the city doesn't have money to do it. And that's another way that the city benefits from these projects, that we can get this work done. It's deferred maintenance because we've never had the money to get it done. It's also bringing new traffic patterns that are safer, more attractive. All of that comes with this development by the end of it. So as we're looking at this, know that it's more than just about the apartments or about the businesses or about the recreation centers that are going to be there. It's about a lot more that benefits this city. So you have to look at these projects in their totality. And again, alderpersons are not urban development planners. That is not our role. We need to stay in our lane. We are legislators. And we have a department, we have two departments that provide us with assistance for the expenditure of funds. One is the St. Louis Development Corporation, and the other one is the Community Development Agency. Both of them spend our money. They vet the projects. We do not sit down as alderpersons. It is not our role to determine who gets a contract. We don't actually create the contracts. We don't sign off on a contract. That is not our role. We don't create leases. We don't make payments. And we go over now to the comptroller's office, who takes care of our funding for us, who has compliance. All of that is not, none of that is the role of an alderperson. The alderperson is the legislator for the people and should be working with the people in the community, helping your community residents and business owners to be more educated, to know the resources that are available to assist them in doing what they are doing and wanting. That's the most important thing. So as we know, we do have concern here, but the St. Louis Development Corporation makes those decisions for us, and we should respect that. Now, we do have one more speaker. Mr. Connolly, are you ready? Mr. Connolly? Do anybody see him? Let me see.
He's on there, Madam Chair. He's on mute. Jerry Connolly.
Yeah, I'm not available to speak right now. Is it possible to come back a bit later after the committee members have asked questions?
After what, sir?
After the members of the committee and any other older people have commented, is it possible to speak then?
Well, one of the things that we try to do is we try to keep the schedule together on our agenda. And so I wanted to, but I'll honor you on that today, okay? So we'll come back after I go through committee. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So let me start with committee members, please. We'll start with Alderman Cone. Oh, I'm sorry, he's not here. Alderman Coder.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm sorry if I missed this. I had to change locations briefly, but is there some sort of financial analysis we're getting on this, or are we doing that for this project? I mean, I'm generally familiar with what's being planned, but was wondering if there's, a model we're looking at or a capital stack or anything.
The model and the plan capital stack was approved back in 2017. So this was basically just approving the tip note section and amending the redevelopment agreement. So
understood.
Okay.
Thanks, Zach. That helps clarify.
Right.
Nothing further, Madam Chair.
All right, sir. Alderwoman Boyd.
I don't have any questions. I'm just trying to be clear in my head. This is something, because we had another project like this. This was something from 2017, and we're just renewing what was already there, correct?
That is an amendment to allow this to move forward. Remember, as the Director Richardson stated, this was all approved in 2017, but it got delayed. And he had an opportunity to review the entire project and have added some suggestions. Green Street has agreed to some new additional things for community benefit, and that's a good thing. So that you're right, it's already been approved. So there's it's just amending this and moving it forward.
Yeah, and that just allowed us to strengthen this to make it better. So yes, that's all I wanted clarity. I have no problem with it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Alderman Naran.
Thank you, Chairwoman Davis. Just a couple of questions. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. If someone from SLDC could kind of point out some of the changes to this project over the last several years now. I know it's a very different beast than what we started with. And I was looking back, but going back to several years before I was on the board, I'm just trying to understand how this project has changed over the last 4.5 years now.
I would say mostly there was more of a mixed use component to this. They had called for some office space before, but as you know, with COVID and other types of things, the office market has tanked. So developers have to adapt, and I would maybe pull in Green Street to go in more detail of what they're seeing right now, but this is more of there was always calls of some type of restaurant component or a microbrewery or those things at the initial passage. So this is probably just more expanding on those type of things. More sales and use tax are going to be predominant on this TIF now more than ever.
I guess my only concern here is, given the change of the nature of the project, have we readdressed the financials on it, given the changes that we're seeing with the actual project? Or are we still looking at those 17 financials and saying that's what this is going to look like, even though we know that the project is going to be quite a bit different?
The initial agreement allowed for flexibility on uses. So yeah, there might have been some changes, but as you know, the TIF amount notes have now increased. We're looking at similar type of uses. Yeah, sometime office space is not going to be there, but increased sales will be there. So we're confident that the TIF will perform well as with the new uses.
Understood. And then Mr. Richardson, if you could go into a little bit further detail about the reasoning you just kind of touched on about why the community benefit agreement that I know the alderwoman from the 17th had been discussing with Green Street, you said that cannot go into this bill?
Yeah, because the initial conversations were around a contribution to the St. Louis Public Schools, and they are one of the taxing districts. Legally, we cannot favor one of the taxing districts over another as it relates to TIF contributions or contributions to a specific tax use. So say, for instance, we wanted to give funds for trash or refuse or those sort of things. We couldn't allocate dollars and say, we're going to take money away from the other taxing districts to give it to a specific one through a TIF. That's allowing the developer to make a decision on how we leverage our tax dollars. And that's not what this TIF should be utilized for. Again, that's why we're having a conversation separate from this TIF altogether. And again, this is not just based off of this one transaction. Green Street is developing several projects across the city, and we have higher level priorities that we want to achieve as a city. One of those is working again with SLDC in the city of how do we bring back some of our vacant and dilapidated schools, and being part of their strategic conversation around educational planning citywide with SLPS. SLDC has been at the table in some of those conversations. And so we're hearing from them that they want to see more schools be redeveloped, taken off of their balance sheet as liabilities, but as assets. And so we're having strategic conversations about how do we redevelop schools across the city that have been vacant in North St. Louis specifically, right? And so not contributing dollars from a TIF, steering dollars here to a project or to SLPS, but how does a developer or our business partners contribute to the overall growth of our city to help with some of those strategic priorities, such as addressing vacancy, addressing our vacant and dilapidated schools, to create more anchors within these communities. So that's part of our economic justice action plan, educational justice, expanding educational access. And so these are the conversations that we're having around how do we partner strategically with SLPS to address these things and not look at it, again, on a transactional basis, but globally, how do we bring businesses and developers to the table to achieve those outcomes? But specifically, we cannot have a contribution from this TIF to public schools. That's just not, we don't have legal grounds for that, and that should not be placed within this board bill.
Understood. Now, and this may not be in your wheelhouse, and if it's not, I totally understand. So absent putting something like that into the bill, is there anything that would actually bind Green Street to do some of the things that you've discussed, or is that more of kind of a handshake deal?
No, so we will have a separate, again, agreement between SLDC and Green Street to ensure that they are being good partners across the city. And if not, we will have remedies for that. And I don't know if Mark Spikerman is on the call as well, or David Sweeney to speak more into that. But Mark, maybe you can give a greater detail on the legalities around it.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. This is Mark Spikerman. I'm outside counsel at SLDC on TIF matters and other redevelopment matters, and everything Neil said is completely accurate. It can't be in the TIF bill, can't be a condition of the TIF. But as we structure sort of overall citywide benefits, there will be various agreements that come into play. And also, if you're aware of Green Street, you know that they have many projects throughout the city, and we don't have short-term memories. If they did back out of an obligation at one point down the road, that would be detrimental to their ability to receive favorable treatment on future incentive applications.
Understood. Well, I guess with that, I'd be inclined to get this out of committee, but I am looking forward to a discussion on the floor with people who are more senior than me, and we're here for that 17 vote, who may understand the project in a way that I don't. So thank you for that. And that's all I have, Chairwoman.
I can share just a brief comment on the understanding about their community benefit. The school district can also work with them directly. And I think that is probably the better way, because that is a great need. And no one can speak for the school district better than they can. So to have Green Street work directly with them, and we shall be on the sidelines for any assistance that we could give through SLDC or other entities, I think would work out very well. And the school district is very capable of speaking for themselves and guiding developers to the areas in need that are greatest for them. So I think that's a better approach.
Agreed, Alderwoman Davis.
Okay. Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions at this time. It's been very informative, and I look forward to seeing the projects in place.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go back. Mr. Connolly, are you ready?
Yes, Chairwoman Davis, I am ready.
Okay, go right ahead, sir.
Okay. I'd like to kind of rewind the clock back to late 2016 when the project had its original hearing for the TIF Commission. And in that project, the main concept of the first phase, so RPA 1, the old Armory building, which does sit, RPA 1 is entirely in the 17th ward, the balance of the project is in the 19th, that the essential part of the project was office construction within the shell of the building. And that involved construction on what they refer to as the drill hall, where the soldiers used to do their exercises and so forth. Hold on a second.
Switch that off. And subsequently in 2017, the developer was informed that they weren't able to get historic nomination to the register for the property. And the reason for that was that because of the construction on the drill hall floor. So basically they said, because of this office construction within the shell, it's ineligible for the credits. So at that point, the developer came back to the LCRA board, and the LCRA were basically signing off on the SLU, St. Louis Midtown Redevelopment Corporation's authorization of 15 years of tax abatement for this project. So that tax abatement was predicated in part by the fact that the developer couldn't get the historic credits because of the office construction. So here we are 5 years later, the office construction aspect is not happening, which to me would seem, well, you could have got the tax credits anyway. So I realize this is convoluted, but it always seems to be the public, the taxpayers, the beneficiaries of the taxing districts, the schools, city-driven general revenue. We're always the last entities, people to see the benefit. It's like the developers are always the first people to see the benefit. So I kind of, although it may have not been intentional on the developer's part, it's still a case of, it's kind of a bait and switch. The equation has changed. And, we all see this pretty graph on TIFs, showing how, we build this property and the assessed value goes up, and that's going to generate a lot of revenue to pay back the TIF notes. Well, the problem in this case, when you have a 15-year tax abatement, is that increment is just flattened dramatically, making it very unlikely that the TIF's going to pay off early and just delay the benefit flowing through to the schools. So that's my main contention, that, this does need to be revisited with a financial analysis. And I believe it's a substantial change to this RPA 1 project, and it should go back to the TIF Commission before coming before this board. In the same way that last year, the City Foundry project, when the project substantially changed to having a residential use, it had to go back to the TIF Commission. So those are my main points. And also I'd appreciate in future if everyone speaking on behalf of the developer is identified for their roles. And I realize Mr. Sweeney from Lewis Rice, is the counsel for Green Street, but he's also the registered lobbyist. And I think everyone in the room should be aware of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I am registered publicly, as I do with all my clients, Mr. Conley. So thanks for pointing it out. And you can look at the whole list. So thank you.
I have looked.
Okay. So what we can do in order to clarify for the public, let's everybody introduce themselves with their titles, please. How about that? Let's start with Mr. Richardson. Would you please have your staff introduce themselves and their titles, please?
Yes. So actually yesterday we got new titles as of when we rolled out our new business lunch special with the mayor. So I'm currently president, executive, CEO. See, I'm even messing it up. CEO of St. Louis Development Corporation. So I'll pass it over to Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson with SLDC, Vice President, Economic Development Centers. I had to read my name today. Thank you.
All right. Okay. You have any other staff with you?
Not today.
Okay.
Mark Spikerman, do you want to? I think he recognized himself earlier, but Mark.
Yes, I'm an attorney with Gilmore and Bell, and I represent SLDC on TIF matters. And unlike the esteemed Mr. Sweeney, I am not a registered lobbyist.
All right, thank you. And going back over to the developers team, Mr. Sweeney, you've already introduced yourself and clarified some things. And there were a couple other people there with you.
I am by myself, but in the Green Street conference room, I'll hand it over to James Hefner.
Okay.
I'm James Hefner. I'm General Counsel and Executive Vice President at Green Street.
Gerard Hollins, Director of Strategy and Development for Green Street.
Matt Bauer, Development Manager for Green Street. Scott Riley, I'm an attorney with Cook and Riley and part of the legal team representing Green Street.
Thank you very much. As we have gone through these developments through COVID, many of them have changed. I know I have 4 developments that are going through their redevelopment process to make sure that the investments and financing and the outcomes are the best, not for the city as well as for the developer. You know, when you go and sign on the dotted line for millions and millions of dollars, you for sure are going to make sure that the development is going to profit for the city. And if we do understand nothing else, the city does not pay for developments. Someone else has to go to the bank and sign off on these loans and assure that it gets done. So we are all partners in this. I appreciate all that come to our cities and do the right thing. And we've had some that have left because they couldn't have their way. And that's okay. But we have some very good partners that are working hard on this city. And I am one of those people who understand probably more about the development process than most, but that's okay. I'm still only a legislator. And I respect the work of the St. Louis Development Corporation, and I respect the work of the Community Development Corporation, and I do not get out of my lane. You all have tried to pull me out of it, but I don't come, do I? So let's get back to the committee here. Does any committee people have any other questions? And you can just feel free to open your mic and speak. Hearing none, I just saw Alderwoman Tina Peel wants to speak. Please feel free to move forward, ma'am. Alderwoman Peel.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman Davis and members of the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak. A few comments I would like to make. The first, I will just start with some of the discussion today regarding the city boundary. I would first like to say that I'm for development. I think development is great. It needs to happen for growth. And at the same time, I feel there needs to be some accountability regarding development. And I want to say that, you know, the Armory building is exclusively, the building location is exclusively in the 17th Ward. I had been working on a board bill regarding the Armory and this TIF. And we were in the finalization of this board bill regarding an equitable development contribution of $470,000, and also a community impact mitigation agreement or a good neighborhood agreement. And I'll discuss that a little bit. I'll discuss that momentarily. Some comments that I would like to make, other comments I'd like to make are, alderpersons, many alderpersons, and the ones on the board many of them are not urban planners. However, I am an urban planner. I have a degree, master's from MIT, and have been practicing this for over 15 years. And so I have been able to hold, I believe, the city and SLDC more accountable. And I feel that alder people all have niches. They all have expertise in one subject matter or another. We have some alder people who focus on environment. And so I look to them for their expertise on environment. I mean, one of those alder people was former alderperson Navarro. And so, as an urban planner myself, professionally, one of the things that alder people do and what we are supposed to do is legislate. And we can legislate, and at the same time, we can hold people and we could hold our city accountable and responsible by understanding the subject matter. And so I have, over the last year and a half, have brought up questions and have questioned different practices in development. And I feel that is something that we all need to do. And that through questioning and asking questions and getting and drilling down to the details of different subject matters, and in this case, it's development, we could better legislate and create legislation that is better for the city. And so that is how we are legislators, is that we can research, we can bring in outside experts to learn, to understand, so that we can make the best decision. And that is what I have done. Because of my background, I have been able to discuss this with SLDC and others in a lot of detail. I've reached out nationally to different organizations that look at tax incentives, like Good Jobs First and Local Progress, and my professors at MIT who have worked on TIF and tax incentive legislation for decades and have created standards and helped cities create standards for development, equitable development contributions. And that's what I would like, and that's what I've been trying to do. I request that we motion to table Board Bill 89 and 90 in order for us to allow SLDC, St. Louis Public Schools, and myself to finalize that $470,000 contribution and the agreement that Green Street had with me and SLDC regarding this community impact mitigation agreement. And what that is a good neighbor agreement. And why I'd like to have that part of this bill to hold Green Street accountable is that they have been building in Forest Park Southeast a lot of developments, which are great. It will strengthen the 17th Ward and Midtown. However, the residents in Forest Park Southeast who are next to and adjacent to these developments have been bypassed. And for better words is that they've been bypassed in terms of how the construction development practices are initiated by Green Street. And my constituents are complaining vociferously that there's dust, people are parking in their parking spaces, the alleys are closed for over a day, and different things like that are happening in this neighborhood in Forest Park Southeast. And I and the constituents would like to hold this developer more accountable in terms of mitigating the daily inconveniences that these neighbors are facing. So these are two things that were being finalized by Green Street, myself, and SLDC and Neil Richardson. And I was not made aware, as I have mentioned just a few days ago, regarding these board bills to be sponsored by another alderperson. And it disappoints me that I have been bypassed. It disappoints me that these two things, the equitable development contribution and this community impact mitigation agreement, are not part of the board bill. And that the equitable development contribution, which could go to the SLPS schools or something else, Marshall School was discussed, is that we were able to do this with the city foundry. And I was working with Mark Spikerman and other lawyers regarding how do we put and attach an equitable development contribution to a TIF. So it has happened and it could happen. And the city foundry, it went back to the Board of Alder because there was a substantial, significant change. It went from 2 office buildings to an office building, and now it's going to be 1 office building and residential. That was a significant material change and went back to the committee and to the Board of Alder. Some people have, during this hearing, I think Alderman Narayan brought up about the material change that has happened in this particular development and have had significant changes. And so I question why, if this particular development with significant changes did not or is not going back up to the Board of Alder in a similar fashion as the city foundry, and our ability in that particular project to put an equitable development contribution attached to the board bills. So thank you for allowing me to speak today. I will work with the developer and SLDC regarding these agreements that were made between the city and ourselves. I'm very proud of the city of St. Louis, SLDC, and the mayor. Going forward, in terms of having more developers held accountable to getting direct contributions. And so I thank you, and I look forward to working with you with the Armory and Green Street and SLDC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderwoman Peel. Back to the committee members again. Does anybody still have, or is everybody still comfortable? Do you have any additional questions? I'd like to close on this board bill 89 with a few comments. One is it has been clearly defined by the St. Louis Development Corporation, the position of community benefit agreement. It is illegal to put it in the board bill. We cannot favor any one taxing district for any purposes. There is also the desire of the St. Louis Public Schools to speak for themselves, which they have indicated to me, the board members, and they are very, very happy at the process that the St. Louis Development Corporation is taking with the developers. And they will make the decisions on their behalf, and they are at the table in consideration. If there are any other points that should be considered as we move forward in the next few weeks, the St. Louis Development Corporation, the developers, and others are always available to answer any questions you may have. As you know, we go through second reading, perfection. We have at least 2 to 3 weeks if anybody has any additional concerns. But right now, I believe we're in a very professional place. We have had all the considerations taken and put into this project, and we have brought this process to another level, because we have never had the St. Louis Public Schools specifically at the table making decisions on their behalf. And this is good, this is healthy, and I do appreciate that. So what I'd like to do is ask if our Vice President would take over the meeting for right now and call for the vote. I don't think I want to do that myself. Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. With that, I guess the chair will entertain a motion to pass the board bill.
Second.
Can we? No, somebody needs to make the motion.
I make a motion that we pass. What's the number? I'm sorry.
89.
89. I move that we pass Board Bill 89.
With the due pass recommendation?
With the due pass recommendations. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 27th and seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th that we pass Board Bill 89 with a due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
I have 5 aye votes, no votes.
By your vote, sustain the motion of the Alderwoman from the 27th to do pass the Board Bill 89. Madam Chair, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to take the reins back?
I'd like for you to keep going, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, next on the agenda, make sure I've got my agenda here. Hold on a second. Okay, here it is. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 90, also by Chairwoman Davis. Chairwoman, you're recognized on Board Bill 90.
Okay. Oh, this thing is acting great. Thank you very much. Board Bill 90 has been alluded to a little bit as we were talking about Board Bill 89. What I'd like to do is ask President Richardson of SLDC to please open us up on Board Bill 90.
For sure. So I'll pass it over to Mr. Zach Wilson, Vice President of Economic Development Incentives for SLDC, to give a quick introduction of the board bill itself, then pass it over to Mark Spikerman. I know he has a couple comments on this board bill and also other matters regarding previous comments, and then move over to Green Street for any final comments. So I'll pass it over to Zach.
I apologize. I believe this one Board Bill 90 is the TIF notes, which we usually see on the first one we just heard discussed was about amending certain parts of the agreement to extend out deadlines and scope of when the construction will be completed within those matters. So this Board Bill's 90 is for the TIF notes. Mark Sparkman can go over further detail if you have them.
Thank you. Mark.
Thank you, Zach. And it was alluded to by Mr. Sweeney at the beginning of the meeting, the TIF note board bill, similar to other TIF notes issued by the city, it takes TIF revenues, and in this case, CID revenues as well, pledges them to the repayment of TIF notes that would be available to reimburse the developer for certain costs. Earlier, Alderwoman Peel brought up the Foundry project, and just for a few points of clarification there. There's a lot of differences between this project and the Foundry project. The Foundry involved RPA2, a separate redevelopment project. The scope of that RPA2 project was changed substantially from what was in the original redevelopment plan. It was introducing a whole new residential use. Under the TIF Act, that triggers getting the whole TIF kicked back to the TIF Commission. In this case, the existing TIF redevelopment plan, the existing TIF redevelopment agreement provide flexibility for various commercial uses. We're still within that sort of scope, even as the project has evolved. The other item is, while we were successful in the Foundry negotiating an equitable development contribution, there were other incentives going into that bill or into that project. So when you look at the TIF bill versus what we call the Chapter 100 bill, you'll find that the equitable development contribution is in the Chapter 100 bill, not the TIF bill. Every incentive program has different statutory rules. We follow them very closely, and that's just the distinguishing factor in the Foundry board bills.
Thank you. We'll pass it over to David Sweeney and then the Green Street team, please.
Sure, David Sweeney. Really, we're just here to, you guys have covered it well. If there's any specific questions, we're, as always, here to answer any and all questions you may have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I guess we'll go through members of the committee and see if they've got questions. I'll start with Alderman Cohn as he joined us. No. Alderwoman Boyd.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Chairwoman Davis, any questions on your bill?
Can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Oh, Alderwoman, you're muted. There you
go. Okay, I think I got it now.
You got it.
Okay, so I just want to give a couple of more clarifications. I don't have any questions. I'm extremely knowledgeable of the bill. We've been working on this project for a very long time. Yeah, and yes, the actual armory building is in the 17th ward, but there's other land and that is in the 19th ward. And so that's why we say that this project, we're talking about a project in its totality. And so that also includes the 19th ward. We also know that many developers are really trying to hang in there with the city right now. They've been through a lot through COVID, trying to hold on to make these developments happen. And remember, they're still spending money. They're trying to keep staff on board and make these projects a reality. So we will see other changes and or you'll see projects come before you that they've been working on for 3-4 years, maybe 5 on some of them. So I just want to say thank you again. And with that, sir, I close.
Thank you, Chairwoman. There is one public speaker. I just glanced at the list. Mr. Conley also signed up relating to Board Bill 90. Mr. Conley, Board Bill. Hearing nothing. I don't even see if he's still on. So hearing nothing from Jerry Connolly, Alderwoman, oh, here he comes. Jerry Connolly, anything else on Board Bill 90?
Yeah, let me see. I'm just trying to pull it up here. I mean, my main thing with Board Bill 90, I mean, it's just kind of back to the developer control SIDS again. You know, it's now 3 years since Missouri State Auditor Galloway made recommendations on how the city should better scrutinize the establishment of districts. I know this district's already established. I have had some correspondence with Green Street's council, Mr. Riley, regarding the various districts that he, I guess, provides support to on behalf of the company. And I have yet to see a meeting posted on the city's website for the Armory SID. And, you know, it is a local political subdivision. It's a government body. They should be conducting their operations in compliance with sunshine statutes. And also just reading the summary of the bill, you know, we're performing legislation here that's retroactively extending a deadline that has since passed, which I just think is kind of strange. So anyway, that's all I have. I would really like to see all the taxing districts post their meetings on the city's website in appropriate notice time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. With that, Chairwoman Davis, you are recognized to close on Board Bill 90.
Thank you very much. Just to bring clarity again, our SIDs are not required to post on a city website. You probably won't find one that posts their meetings. All the SIDs that I know in the immediate area, they go out of their way to announce their meetings to the neighborhood associations, they have a list of businesses that get the notices. Most of them have standard meeting times and dates, and they don't even change them. They've been the same for years. So everything is up for consideration. It's not something that could not be done in the future, but that has nothing to do with this particular project, and they have done nothing wrong as far as operating a SID. So with that, I would like to ask for consideration of this bill to move forward. And I thank everyone for their time today, and most especially for having more information put out to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. The chair will entertain a motion for a due pass recommendation on Board Bill 90.
I make a motion for a due pass recommendation for Board Bill 90.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 27th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th that we
previous roll.
Board Bill 90 with a due pass recommendation. There's been a request for previous roll. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 90 is adopted the due pass recommendation.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman. Chairwoman, do you want to take back over? You want me to just wrap us up here?
You can wrap us up, sir.
Okay, going through our agenda, we've covered our 2 board bills. We have no resolutions for review. I don't see anything listed under committee discussion. Any announcements from members of the committee?
I don't have an announcement. I just have a statement, because first I want to thank SLDC for looking at how we're doing business and trying to ensure that we are fair across the board. And with the atmosphere that we have in our political arena, they have been very cautious and careful to make sure that all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. As Alderwoman Davis stated earlier, she made it clear that it's not us as older people's responsibility to micromanage SLDC. That's not our role. Our role is to pass legislations, and that's the role that we have. We can't dictate one way or the other. In regards to St. Louis Public Schools, they have their own board and they're handling their business very well. So we should not be in their business, as kids on the street say, in their lane, trying to take care of their business. We have enough with our own issues within our city. So I want to thank Neil Richardson and his staff, and thank the committee that's trying to work with them, because this is new to all of us, the change that we're dealing with in regards to doing business. And so we appreciate you all for trying to help us through this maze that we're in. And that's what it is, it's a maze. And so we're learning as we go. And I tell everybody that sits on this committee, you learn every time you sit at a HUD's meeting. So don't think you learned it all. Trust me. Every day is something new that you had to learn. So I thank Alderman Coulter and Alderman Davis, because you all have the knowledge that's passing it on to us, which helping us. I still look at myself as a newbie that's trying to learn this whole HUD's piece. So thank you all very much. And thank you, SLDC.
Thank you, Alderwoman. My brief announcement would just be to thank Director Richardson and Zach Wilson and the whole SLDC staff for their hard work on bringing the mayor's luncheon back yesterday. It was really a great event. Great to see everybody and to celebrate some of our successful businesses and successful development projects, many of which have come through this very committee in years past. So it was really a lot of fun to see everybody. So I know that thing's a lot of work. Thank you all very much for your efforts there. With that, looking at our agenda, we'll excuse the Alderman from the 25th for necessary absence. And now the Housing, Urban Development and Zoning Committee meeting for September 29th, 2022 is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.